Peace, 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 man. How y'all doing? Hope everybody's doing well. There's a lot going on. We already know that. We ironing things out, though, family. We ironing things out, right? I want to give a special shout out to my mom because I for the past two I had for the past 2 days I've been in the hospital with my mom. So it was like I had to come in, then work, study and you know, um, yeah, yeah. But for me, what I do is like my life, right? So it's not really a big deal. It's just I was a little, you know, just a little worried a little bit till I found out my mom was good. And I'm still trying to take it in because it's like, man, I don't love my moms, man. And I want to say peace. And I feel the pain of anybody that's out there, man. And they lost their mom. Trying to tell you, man, I really feel you. You know what I mean? Sister, brother, you know what I mean? Sheikist, I feel you. You hear me? I feel you. Man, yeah, I feel you. So I overstand. I'm here if you want to talk about it. You need somebody to talk to. I'm here. Trust me, I'm here because I understand. So, without further ado, I'm going to read chapter 12 of a book that I was blessed to get through, right? I was blessed to start it and finish it. That in itself is a blessing, right? So, I want to give gratitude for that as well, right? So, let's go into it, man. This is chapter 10 from my book, Moros de Terra. Moros de Terra, American History. Okay. The Patuan. The Patuan. The P-O-T-U-W-A-N. The Patuan Moors of the Susquehanna, the suppressed indigenous Moorish nations of the mid-Atlantic, the peoples along the Susquehanna River, from present-day Pennsylvania down into Maryland, we're not a single tribe, but a network of related eastern woodland nations. Many of them held Moorish identity, cosmology, and the titles before Europeans arrived. I apologize, y'all. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and the baby sleep, and the missus sleep. So if y'all get some sound like somebody cutting down some logs. I ain't outside, y'all. I'm in my office. He laying all over the couch. He a trip, man. But yeah, so let me get to it, y'all. The titles before Europeans arrived, okay? The colonial writers often call them Moors, Moors of the land, Moros de Terra, right? Moormen, Moormen, dark Indians, tawny Moors, or Patuan or Patuwa men. These terms appear repeatedly in the 16 to the 1700s in the journals, but were erased in latter editions, right? Who were the Patuan Moors? The Patuan were a older clan confederacy connected to Susquehannock and Dasti, Andaste, Minquas, Patuwamic, Patu, or Pat is three different spellings. It's Patawomeck, Patuwamic, Potomac, Nanticoke, Conoy, Piscataway, Lenape, Algonquin hybrid lineages, Maroon, Moorish lineages already present before Europeans, right? The name Patuwa, is found in early records referring to tall, powerful, copper brown, or near dark nations that Europeans called Moors, right? Because of their complexion, their legal dress, their regal dress, turbans, feathers, mantles, their titles, Tayet, Senechchorin, Senechchorim, Senechorim, Sharif-like ranks, their Islamic coded diplomacy, right? Diplomacy, though indigenous in origin, their North African Atlantic trade routes before 1492. They lived in towns up and down the Susquehanna, especially near Costanoga, Safe Harbor, Swatera, Swatera, Swastika. I see swastika in there, something like that, because uh, there is a supposedly, I don't know if it's in the pantheon of the zodiacs, but I know there is a 13th one. I don't, I don't think there are any, because if you're on your operating on your higher self, but that's I need to look into that some more, right? But it's supposed to be like the 13th zodiac, right? The highest you can go, and the symbol is made like a swastika, right? This would be your serpent energy. This would be your cosmic memory, right? It's not serpent what y'all think. It ain't no witches and goblins and ghouls around here. Okay. So you best know, if a Moor say it, it ain't got nothing to do with no damn evil nothing. And if you think that, you got problems. Obviously, I don't care what nobody think, because I know who I am, right? Swatera, Creek Actorera. This is Octoraro. Actorero. Actorero. It's almost like us saying, "What up, Ock? What up, Ock?" You know how we are, man. You know how we talk, man. Y'all know how we do, right? We make up all kind of names. We throw a something at the end of it. But we always have our little sayings the way that we talk. We've always been like this, guys. That's what our Algonquin tongue is. It's like how we talk. Y'all know how we talk, right? So Costanoga, Safe Harbor, Swatera, Creek, Torero, right? Port Deposit, Havre Greece. The Chesapeake headwaters, right? Number two, why were they called Moors of America? Colonial chroniclers describe these nations as tall, dark, like the Moors of Barbary. Let me move this up some guy. Dark as any Moor, yet native to this land. The Moors who dwell near the river. See, we used to be guardians of the river, of the rivers, of all the rivers. The Susquehanna River, the Potomac River, uh, 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 the Potomac River, the Chesapeake, and what's the fourth one? Potomac, Susquehanna, and the Patapsco, and the Patapsco River, right? With the Chesapeake, they were like veins. They went off to the side. Rivers that uh duck was off of the Atlantic coast. Was off of the mid Atlantic coast. Little waterways. And we were guardians of the rivers, right? All about cosmology. We used to go off of the winds and the stars, and we went off of cosmology. Okay, so where we at? Where we at? Okay, black as any Moor, yet native to this land. The Moors who dwell near the river. This did not mean they were recent Africans. It meant they were seen as an indigenous, dark, regal warrior nation with Moorish parallels. Diplomacy using wampum belts like treaties, crescent, star, cosmology, clan totals, resembling Berber symbols, hereditary, Tayak, T is spelled Tayyac or Teyac, Tayak, system like Sharifian, right? Lineage, river trade, empire like Maghrib el Aqsa, right? Tribes, these people were called Moors because of identity, appearance, governance, but not, but because, I'm sorry, governance, not because you're brought Moors here, they were already here. The truth, Europeans feared the Susquehanna Moors because they were giants by European standards, often 6 to 7 feet. They wielded iron weapons taken from pre colonial Atlantic trade. They dominated the mid Atlantic trade routes. I always thought I always thought, how could they be too strong for that? Not only are we warriors of our bodies, I mean, psychologically and spiritually, we're also warriors physically, right? And this is no ego or nothing like that. It's just you have to be because you always run into some nut ass, some clown, right? So we always got to be ready. We got to stay on our picket, right? So when John Smith met them in 1608, he wrote, they came like nobles, tall, dark, and fierce. Latter editions replaced dark with brown and then removed it entirely. This is part of the whitewashing, the Susquehannock. Let me move up some guys. The Susquehannock and their related Moors were never defeated militarily. They were destroyed by European introduced diseases and colonial terror raids. A connection to Nanticoke, Piscataway, Kanoi, Patawomac, our people, Nanticoke, Mak'i, Nanjamoy. Shouts to my dad's side of the family. My grandmother owned about 700 acres in Nanjamoy. Yeah. And I found that while I was while I was getting to the end of my mom's side, I ran in accidentally or probably meant that it was supposed to happen. I ran into Nanjamoy, the Nanjamoy uh, Native Americans, right? So Nanjamoy, Piscataway, Tayak lines are directly connected to this heritage. These groups shared marriage ties, clan mother lineage, river confederacy systems, Moorish cosmology, diplomatic and warrior systems older than colonization. The Patuan Moors were the northern branch of the same network. What Europeans tried to do, they reclassified Moros, and the Tawny Moors into Indians, destroyed original maps, changed terms in latter prints. Hear that? Racialized everything to hide dark indigenous nations, erased testimonies, describing these people as dark copper Moorish, the gold, right? Sever our identity from our land. Replace Moors with tribe. Replace Tayak with chief. Replace nation with reservation. The unwhitewashed bottom line: the Patuan Moors of the Susquehanna were indigenous Moorish nations of the mid-Atlantic, dark-skinned eastern woodland nobles. This is a fact. Part of the larger Moorish Algonquin confederacies, Iroquoian confederacies, ruled by Tayaks and hereditary clans connected to our lineage through Nanticoke, Piscataway, Potomac lines. They were not African slaves, recent revivals, lost tribes, primitive woodland groups. They were they were an empire of river nations, controlling the trade arteries from New York to the Chesapeake. Man, I was thinking that before I even read it and found it. I was thinking, I was like, man, it's probably a connection from New York to the Chesapeake, and it was, right? This is the truth. Colonial history buried. Okay, it's the truth. They buried this, guys. Right? Okay, let me move this up. All right. So Moros de Terra, man, Moros de Terra. I wrote this. I wrote it in our voice. Right. That's how I wrote it. Like we were saying this. Okay. With your mission, with our mission, our tone, and our indigenous Moorish truth. Chapter: the Patuan Moors of the Susquehanna. Okay, the Patuan Moors of the Susquehanna. Okay, the river kingdom of the Moros de Terra. The Susquehanna River does not merely flow through the earth; it flows through memory. Now we can really get deep, y'all. This is what it's all about. We connected all over the landmass. Because you got to remember, before the shift of the tectonic plates, all of the lands were connected, right? Right. And then where is the equator? Comment below. Comment below. See, they want to tell us where the equator is now after the lands have split, right? So where was the equator when it's Pangea? Now where's the equator? So this is where your ultraviolet rays are. This is where your UV rays are, right? And this is where civilization started, where people were darker, and as they started to migrate out, we started to get light. And then some people permanently was bleaching. Some people were purposely bleaching their skins, purposely. I don't understand. But look, okay, where we at? Okay, what was that? Okay, so I say start up here. The Susquehanna River does not, because I'm not, listen, we need to see this, we need to hear this 5 or 6 times, right? The Susquehanna River does not merely flow through the earth, it flows through memory, through our blood, through the unbroken line of Moors of the land, the Moros de Terra. Man, this thing is jumping whammy, guys. Hold up. You know it's going to be complications talking about this kind of stuff. Talking about our story. Stuff gonna be jumping around. Okay. Okay. Mm-mm. Wait a minute, let me go up some more, y'all. This is important. I ain't missing nothing. My bad, guys. Okay. That's not ready. Yeah, it was a glitch. When we talk about certain things, there's always going to be a glitch. Always. Until we get, till we start getting that really, really good frequency. They do this kind of stuff to throw us off. But one thing about Moors is we patient. Okay. Hey, yeah, over down there. Okay. Here we go, guys. All right. All right. Here we go. All right. Moros de Terra, whose names were struck from the pages of history. Some of history, but never from the land itself. The Patuan Moors, whose presence crowned the mid-Atlantic with a sovereignty older than the colonies, older than the crown of Europe, older than the maps that tried to erase them. You hear me? This chapter restores their truth. Number one, the river that remembers before the word America was even spoken. The people along the Susquehanna called themselves by names tied to the land, the clans, and the sky, the Patuan, the Patuwa, the Costanoga, Andesti, Susquehannock, Whistle, Wisa, or Visa, okay, or Visa, right? I say Visa, like a Visa card, but Visa, right? Patawomek, Nantico, Konoi, Piscataway, Pa Ora, Patalaloka, Inshallah. These were not tribes in the colonial sense. They were river nations, clan federations, and cosmic lineages to Europeans. They appeared regal, dark, tall, and organized. Unlike the stereotype they carried across the ocean, so the colonists described them in words they understood. Moros of the land, Moros de Terra, right? Tall, dark, noble like the Moors of Barbary. Those who lived along the river were not newcomers. Those who lived along the river are not newcomers. They used to call us guardians of the river because of the four veins. We used to guard those rivers along the mid Atlantic, right? We used to guard them. My son, boy, he cracked one on the camera. We keep it real around here, guys. Yeah. So yeah, my bad though. My bad. He's only three. He's only three. And he sleep while I'm working. So right. So yeah, what's it say? Okay, I'm sorry. Those who lived along the river were not newcomers, nor Africans brought in chains. They were indigenous. They were sovereign. They were home. The Patuan, lords of the mid-Atlantic spine. The Patuan were not a tribe, but a Moorish-led confederacy, a binding of clans centered around the Susquehanna headwaters in the north, the Chesapeake threshold in the south. Their domain was the central artery of the eastern seaboard. Okay, their domain was the central artery of the eastern seaboard, the river that connected the Great Lakes to the Atlantic. Whoever controlled the Susquehanna controlled everything. Man, trade routes, diplomacy, war paths, migration, spiritual passages. The Patuan understood the river as a living being, a serpent spirit winding from the mountains to the sea. carrying messages, memories, and prophecy. They were called Moors for a reason. Chroniclers, chroniclers, right? Before there were words were edited. I'm sorry, it's my son, y'all. Before the words were edited, softened, and whitewashed. Before the words were softened, edited, softened, and whitewashed, right? Recorded the Patuan and their allied nations as tall as giants, dark as any Moor of Barbary, noble in bearing, commanding the trade of many nations, dressed in mantles, turbans, and kingly attire. The colonial mind could not process indigenous nobility in its true form, so they reached for old world comparisons. To them, a person of dark complexion with regal clothing, hier- hierarchical, right? Hierarchical governance and diplomatic order was a Moor. But to our people, Moor was not foreign. It described a cosmic responsibility, a blood memory, right? A keeper of the law of the land, a guardian of the waterways. The Moors of Africa and the Moors of Amexem were not divided by oceans, but connected by ancient migrations, maritime routes, and spiritual kinship. The Patawan were a branch of this great tree, the Tayak system. Moorish governance in the woodland realm long before Europeans imposed the word chief. Our ancestors operated under a Tayak system, a hereditary and a matrilineal governance structure with striking similarities to a Moorish Sharifian lines, right? Similarities to Moorish Sharifian lines, right? That's right. Titles such as Tayak or Tayak, paramount leader, keeper of the treaty belt, Senechorem, Senechorem, Senechorrim, senior war governor, whistle or Wisa, right? Wisa, like a Visa card. Wisa, royal clan mother, Kaship, Kaship Makin, Kaship Makin, Kishe Makin, Kishimakin, first speaker at council, Sharif-like diplomatic roles, long misunderstood by Europeans. This system governed the Patawan and their allied nations for centuries. It was sophisticated, legalistic, ceremonial, and deeply intertwined with cosmology. Every decision tied to star cycles, river tides, clan dreams, and the wisdom of the matriarchs. Man, a people Europeans feared. Then erased the Papuan Moors, held the mid-Atlantic with such power, the 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 Papuan Moors had the mid-Atlantic such power that Europeans realized they could not conquer them directly. Here we go. Early colonial accounts reveal fear. Tall warriors of the near Ethiopian hue, mighty men of structure, incomparable. Their arrows pierce armor. Their fortresses upon the river are strongholds of kings. European settlers tried diplomacy. It failed. They tried alliances. They failed. They tried open battle. They were humiliated. Move up, son. The only thing that weakened the Powhatan was the same invisible specter that ravaged so many indigenous nations, disease that arrived before the settlers themselves. Man, when the initials came, they were the one that infected everybody. By the time the settlers came in, the disease was already full blast. The virus was already full blast. That's a fact. Illness passed through trade routes like wildfire, taking those with no immunity. By the time large numbers of the Europeans arrived, the population had been diminished. Those who survived were forced into relocation, reclassification, disappearance. From the colonial record, the Patuan were not destroyed in battle. They were erased on paper. Survivors carried the line forward. The lineages of the Patuan Moors continued through Nanticoke clans of the Chesapeake headwaters, Piscataway, and Kanoi families of the Nanjamoy. Of the Nanjamoy. The Port Tobacco and the Western Shore Potawatomi families along the Potomac River Susquehanna families were merged into Iroquois towns, free Moorish communities in the 1700s through the 1800s, right? Your own families, your own elders, your own surnames trace back to these river kingdoms. Those who called themselves Moros de Terra never vanished. They transitioned, they adapted, they hid in plain sight, but they never stopped being sovereign, right? The return of the river memory today, when they speak of the Patuan Moors, we are not resurrecting a lost people. We are recognizing a living one. Their blood flows in the veins of those who still honor the river, the land, the lineage, the cosmology, the knowledge, the responsibility, and the truth long buried under colonial lies. The Susquehanna remembers, the land remembers. And now the world will remember too. This chapter is their restoration, a return of the rightful story to the rightful descendants. The rightful story to the rightful descendants. I forbid y'all a beautiful week, and I'll see you guys on the next one. This is chapter 10 of Moros de Terra. I want to give a shout to I see it. I want to give a shout to a Maxim Almanac. I want to give a shout to Cujo Eel and the Canaan Land Moors. I want to give a shout to Cush Bay. I want to give a shout to Mohalib Debe, IED Calico. I don't mean to say nothing. I'm just saying these brothers I know are solid. That's all I'm saying. I haven't seen no hidden hands, none of that shit with these brothers. Okay, some brothers I've seen hidden hands, and see one thing about me is I'm very vigilant and I'm very aware. Okay, no disrespect, you do what you do, but I ride with the ancients, and it just is what it is. I love y'all. Stay strong as Parris the Moor. Peace. Islam. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Ameen. Peace. Love y'all.